A small, peaceful town in Connecticut was rocked by a gruesome murder when the decapitated body of Peter Johnson, a 38-year-old businessman, was discovered in a secluded forest. What began as a horrifying find quickly unraveled into a tangled web of old grudges, financial disputes, and impulsive rage. As investigators pieced together chilling clues including a rusted knife, a shattered phone, and footprints in the mud, they zeroed in on Michael Harris, a former friend turned bitter enemy. The tense pursuit of the fugitive and his ultimate confession revealed a crime born from festering anger, leaving the town grappling with the devastating consequences of vengeance. Part 1. The crime scene. Early one morning in November 2024, in a secluded forest near Lakewood, a small town in Connecticut, John H., a local resident, left his home to collect firewood, as he often did. The forest, located about 3 miles from the town center, was a tranquil and rarely visited area. However, that morning, a horrifying discovery shattered the peace of the community. Amid the faint light streaming through the forest canopy, John noticed a dark red stain on the ground. Initially, he thought it might be animal blood left by hunters. But as he approached, he froze in shock. A lifeless body lay face down, decapitated. The victim's clothes were torn, and the body bore severe wounds. Terrified but understanding the gravity of his discovery, John immediately contacted local authorities. Within an hour, Lakewood Police and the State Forensics Unit arrived, cordoning off the area and beginning their investigation. The crime scene revealed disturbing details. Apart from the body, investigators found an old, rusted knife about 30 feet away. Nearby was a shattered mobile phone, its screen cracked but with retrievable data in its memory. A trail of blood extended outward, leading to a patch of disturbed soil nearby, suggesting an attempt to conceal evidence. Forensic experts determined the victim had been killed 3-4 days prior. The damp weather had blurred some traces of blood, but dried droplets on leaves and branches remained, offering potential DNA evidence. Significantly, footprints were visible in the muddy soil, large shoe prints consistent with an adult male. The trail indicated the suspect had left the scene along a path leading to a dirt road connecting the forest to nearby neighborhoods. The surrounding area showed signs of struggle, with flattened grass and broken branches. Further investigation led officers to a shallow, freshly dug hole where locals suspected evidence might be hidden. Upon excavation, they discovered the victim's severed head wrapped in an old jacket. The scene was haunting. Those present could not conceal their shock and sorrow. Under the faint glow of the late afternoon, forensic teams worked meticulously, collecting every possible clue for the investigation. By nightfall, the crime scene was sealed. As whispers of the gruesome murder spread through the community, investigators prepared for the next stage, identifying the victim and uncovering the motive behind this heinous crime. Part 2. Identifying the victim and the investigation. The victim was identified later that evening through initial evidence found at the scene and testimony from locals. A wallet containing a driver's license was recovered from the body's pocket, confirming the deceased as Peter Johnson, a 38-year-old local who had been reported missing 5 days earlier. His wife, Emily Johnson, was brought to the police station to confirm the identification. Upon hearing the news, she collapsed in grief, her cries piercing the otherwise silent precinct. Emily recounted that her husband had left home on the evening of November 10th, claiming he was meeting an acquaintance for a business discussion. He had not returned that night, and all attempts to contact him had failed. She had reported his disappearance to the authorities 2 days later, but had little hope of a resolution until the horrifying discovery. Investigators quickly shifted their focus to reconstructing Peter's final movements. The shattered mobile phone retrieved from the scene was sent to a digital forensic team, who managed to recover several deleted messages and call logs. The last recorded call was to a man named Michael Harris, a former business associate of Peter, made on the evening of his disappearance. This clue was a significant breakthrough. Meanwhile, forensic analysis of the knife found at the crime scene revealed faint traces of blood consistent with the victim's. The knife was old, suggesting it may have been used opportunistically rather than premeditatedly brought to the scene. Footprints around the body and the blood trail were measured and documented. Investigators noted two sets of prints, one matching the victims and another belonging to a larger, heavier individual, likely the perpetrator. The investigation expanded into Peter's personal and professional life. Interviews with neighbors, family, and acquaintances painted a picture of a hard-working man with no known enemies, at least none visible on the surface. However, digging deeper, police uncovered tensions between Peter and several individuals, including business disputes and unresolved personal conflicts. Further evidence emerged when forensic experts analyzed the fabric used to wrap the victim's head. The old jacket was traced to a local store where it was commonly sold. Witness statements from shopkeepers helped identify a potential buyer, someone who matched the physical description of Michael Harris, the man mentioned in the phone records. With these mounting clues, the investigation took on a more focused direction. The police now had a potential suspect and motive to explore. Part 3: Suspects and Key Clues. With Michael Harris emerging as the primary suspect, investigators intensified their focus on his background and his connection to the victim. Harris, a 40-year-old businessman, had a long history with Peter Johnson. They were once close friends and even business partners. However, a bitter financial dispute several years ago ended their relationship, leaving Harris harboring resentment. Witnesses reported seeing Harris and Peter arguing in public on multiple occasions, the most recent being a week before the victim's disappearance. Further investigation revealed troubling patterns in Harris's recent activities. Surveillance footage from a gas station near the Forest Road captured Harris purchasing a large bottle of liquor and a hunting knife similar to the one found at the crime scene. The timestamp matched the night of Peter's disappearance. Moreover, Harris's phone location data placed him near the forest during the hours investigators believed the murder occurred. Despite this mounting evidence, Harris denied any involvement when brought in for questioning. He claimed he had been at home the entire evening and that his last communication with Peter had been a casual conversation weeks prior. However, his alibi quickly fell apart when his neighbors reported not seeing him that night. One neighbor even mentioned hearing the sound of a car starting late in the evening. Simultaneously, another lead came to light. An individual named Jacob Miller, a local landowner and acquaintance of both the victim and Harris, became a person of interest. Miller had been embroiled in a land dispute with Peter and had previously threatened him in public. Investigators discovered Miller had rented a vehicle the night of the murder, and soil samples from the car's tires matched the forest terrain. As the investigation progressed, police uncovered key forensic evidence. A partial fingerprint found on the knife handle matched Harris's. Furthermore, DNA analysis of the blood on the jacket used to wrap the victim's head confirmed it belonged to Peter. Investigators now had enough evidence to tie Harris directly to the crime scene, though questions remained about whether Miller might have played a role. Part 4: The Hunt for the Killer and Closing the Case. With solid evidence implicating Michael Harris, authorities issued an arrest warrant. However, when officers arrived at his home, they found it abandoned. Harris had fled, leaving behind a cryptic note reading, "I had no choice." This sparked a massive manhunt involving local police and specialized investigative units. Tips from informants led police to believe Harris was hiding in a remote area near the Vermont border. Officers combed through mountainous terrain, relying on drone surveillance and search dogs. After 3 days, a breakthrough came when Harris was spotted at a roadside stall purchasing food. He attempted to flee, but was quickly apprehended in a tense standoff, where he briefly held a knife to his own throat before surrendering. Tips from informants led police to believe Harris was hiding in a remote area near the Vermont border. Officers combed through mountainous terrain, relying on drone surveillance and search dogs. After 3 days, a breakthrough came when Harris was spotted at a roadside stall purchasing food. He attempted to flee, but was quickly apprehended in a tense standoff, where he briefly held a knife to his own throat before surrendering. During interrogation, Harris finally confessed to the murder. He revealed that he had lured Peter to the forest under the guise of resolving their old financial dispute. Fueled by anger and alcohol, Harris claimed he confronted Peter about the money he believed he was owed. When the argument escalated, Harris fatally attacked Peter in a fit of rage. He then attempted to cover up the crime by decapitating the body, hoping it would hinder identification. As for Jacob Miller, further investigation cleared him of direct involvement in the murder. While he had motives related to his land dispute with Peter, no evidence linked him to the crime scene. His vehicle and location records indicated he had been elsewhere that night. With Harris's confession and the overwhelming forensic evidence, the case was officially closed. Harris was charged with first-degree murder and evidence tampering. At his trial, he expressed regret, but maintained he had acted impulsively and did not premeditate the killing. The court sentenced him to life imprisonment. The resolution of the case brought a measure of relief to Peter Johnson's grieving family, though their pain remained profound. The investigation, marked by meticulous forensic work and persistent detective efforts, was a stark reminder of how old grudges can spiral into unspeakable violence. The Lakewood community, shaken by the brutal crime, slowly began to heal, carrying with them the lessons of a tragedy born from unresolved anger. The brutal murder of Peter Johnson left an indelible mark on the quiet town of Lakewood. The successful capture and conviction of Michael Harris brought a sense of closure to the case, but could never erase the pain and loss felt by Peter's grieving family. This tragedy served as a harsh reminder of the dangers of unresolved anger and how unchecked emotions can spiral into irreversible consequences. The investigators' relentless pursuit of justice, their meticulous gathering of evidence, and their determination to uncover the truth showcase the importance of perseverance and teamwork in solving even the most heinous crimes. For the community of Lakewood, healing would take time, but the lessons learned would remain a lasting legacy. If you found this story fascinating and want to hear more real crime investigations, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more in-depth stories and explore the dark sides of human nature. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. What do you think could have prevented this tragedy?